All right, so let's see. I got an SMA 30 here. All right, so pretty simple. Whenever price is touching a bar, will block signals. All right, so let's get BloodHound opened and put in today's workshop file name. So I'm going to hit the change button. All right, so once you have a file name in place, now it's safe to start working. So I'm going to start working on the logic tab here. And let's create a new logic template here using the new button. Okay, and let's give this a name here. All right, there we go. So we're going to block signals when a bar is touching or touches a moving average. So, what is basically, the mechanics, the mechanical definition of price, touching a moving average? Well, it's the high price is going to be above your moving average, and the low price is going to be below your moving average, and both are going to be true at the same time, right? So like one of these bars over here, well, the low price is below it, but the high price is no longer above the moving average, right? So as long as both are true, then you know a bar is touching your moving average, right? So this is going to take two comparison solvers. So we're going to compare the high price to make sure it's above the moving average, and then with a second comparison solver, we're going to compare the low price and make sure that it's below the moving average. And actually, no. You know what? I think we can do this with one comparison solver. So, let's try and just do it with one comparison solver first. So there we go. So indicator comparison is the solver we're going to use. And we'll connect it in. All right. I gave it a name. So always remember, it's very important to name your solvers so that you have some idea of what your solver is actually doing. So, all right, so input A, that'll be the the price, the high and low of the bar. So let's see here. So let's see. So I'm just kind of thinking this through here. So I'm so used to thinking in terms of producing a signal. So sometimes you got to reverse your thinking when you want to block a signal. All right, so for a long, there's no rhyme or reason, but for a long, I'll generate a long signal using the high price, and we'll generate a short signal using the low price. And now we're going to compare that to the SMA 30. So, right, we already have an SMA in there, so I just need to adjust it to a 30 period, like so. All right. So here is what we're interested in, right? Is when we get a long and a short output. Although, since we want to block signals, right? So normally, let's just take a look at this. We'll generate basically the opposite condition first, just as an example here. So if I grab a long short modifier, grab that, and the mode would be product or multiplication. Now, this would allow signals only when price is touching the moving average, right? So since this is producing an output, right, a long and a short output, so this would actually allow signals only when price touches the moving average, right? So this is the opposite of what Ashley's looking for here. So there's an example of the opposite, right? So again, if we look at the solver here, right, I'm comparing the high to the moving average. So if the high is above the moving average, we're getting a long output. And then the short output, if the low price is below the moving average, then we're getting a short output, right? So let's look at this a little bit more here, right? So all these bars here where we have a short output, right? That's because the low is clearly below the moving average, but the high prices are not. So that's why there is no long output here. And then, the opposite over here, the high prices are clearly above the moving average, but the low prices are also above the moving average. So with the low prices being above, there's no short output, right? And then our long short modifier here just kind of cleans up the output so that we're only left when we have long and short together, right? And that's how we can identify. So this is identifying when a bar touches, but it's not blocking signals. It's only allowing signals when price touches. So we just need to reverse everything going on here. So we'll do that here in just a second. All right, so I'm going to name my long short modifier. All right, so for the opposite, let's see here. I think to get the opposite results, I think we can just reverse the outputs here, like so. And let's look at the solver directly. Now we can see, right, we do kind of have the opposite effect here where when a bar is touching, right, there is no output from BloodHound. And then if the entire bar is below, right, the moving average, we get a long, or if the entire bar is above the moving average, we get a short. But, we want to be able to allow signals in both directions, possibly. So let's adjust our long short modifier. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'll get back to that in a moment here. So I will produce, I'll produce two sets of nodes here. So one for blocking signals and one for allowing signals here before we finish up here. So let's see, we need to adjust our long short modifier here, and actually I'll just leave that one like it is. Let's just grab a new long short modifier here. So what I'm going to use the long short modifier to do is let's connect that up, is I want to take this long output and also mirror it to produce a short output, and the same thing over here. So when there is a short output, I want to mirror that to also produce a long output, right? So in other words, we want both a long output and a short output together whenever there is an output, right? That way, long or short signals would be allowed when price is not touching, but also when long and short signals would be allowed when price is above and not touching. So let's see here. So the mode, let's see, addition. Yeah, there we go. So we can just use addition like so. And there we have it. So as long as the bar is not touching, then we have a long and short output. Let's see. Now, now we just need to add the requirement that, right, the bar needs to be X number of ticks away from the moving average as well, right? So right now, the bar has to touch it. But let's say, that these bars, the high price is a little too close to that moving average. So we want to block signals here if price is if the bar is within X number of ticks from that moving average. So let's see, I think we should be able to just use this, use the difference here. And let's see what happens when we put in 5 ticks. And there we go. All right. So now those two bars are within 5 ticks. And, right, there's no output on those two bars. And then, right, we get this little doji here that is more than 5 ticks away from the moving average. And so a signal would be allowed right there. Right. So there we have it. So you can just add whatever kind of tick distance away from the moving average that you want. Or of course, if you want to do this in points, you can change the measurement units from ticks to points, like so. Change it to points, and of course, there you go. That's going to make a big difference there. So that's going to remove a lot more bars. Yeah. So, all right. I will put this back to ticks, like so. All right, so let me also finish up with the opposite situation here. So let's see here. So I'm going to go to our solvers tab here, make a copy of that comparison solver, and there. All right. So I have one comparison solver that we're using, when that's producing an output when the bar is not touching the moving average, and then our other comparison solver is going to produce an output when the bar does touch the moving average. And so for that, right, I just need to reverse my outputs again to the default settings for the output there. All right, so again, that's for the bar touching the moving average. And so let me put that new solver on the board here. So we're going to existing nodes, and there's that new solver I just made, and let's connect that up. And we can see that in this case, the difference amount isn't working for identifying, a bar actually touching the moving average. So, all right, let's just flip these around. There. All right. So this would be signals are allowed only when the bar touches the moving average. And then this logic above is the opposite. It's blocking signals when price is touching the moving average. And let's see here. And the last step here, the last part, would be to add some kind of a signal source. So let me just do a simple price inflection solver here to generate a bunch of random signals. And let's see here. Change the input from indicator to price, right? So there we go. So now we just have a bunch of random, signals here every time the bar reverses direction there. So I could use this as a test signal source. And so with a AND node, right, I can connect that into an AND node. And if I connect that in, right, there we go. So now we have signals when price is, let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, so when price is at least 5 ticks away from that moving average, a signal can get through. But, if the bar is touching the moving average or within, 5 ticks, then the signals will be blocked, right? So, or we could look at the opposite situation there. There we go. So, right? So now signals are only allowed when the bar touches the moving average. There. All right, so there we have it.